the player comes across a cursed and haunted software with multiple suffering souls trapped, begging to be freed and released from their unjustified torment. Alongside these souls are innocent children who went missing, leaving their parents traumatized. Will the player manage to get to the bottom of it and free them, or will he be another victim getting trapped in this cursed software? The protagonist of the game managing to recover the ambiguous 99X software, he comes across a few working files remaining, which withheld sinister information about specific people. Right off the bat, the protagonist encounters an interesting looking game called Jumping Julian, developed by Dreamer Studios in 1998. The titular main character, Julian, is a friendly character who encourages the player to go through the primitive clunky platforms, having basic mechanics. While playing, after some levels, the game crashes with a blue screen appearing, having some long error codes. Decoding these codes using Hex Decoder, it translates them to "Let me out, he has trapped us here, we are running out of time." So what is really going on here? Is there a soul trapped within this digital software who is trying to communicate with us, using these long codes so they won't be exposed to someone watching them, trying to secretly communicate with the player as their last resort? Restarting the software, Julian appears in the main desktop outside the confines of the game, displaying that he is bound to the entire software and not only the video game. Julian urges the player to play the game again as he has made it even better now, as if trying desperately to communicate a secret message with the player. Just before starting the game automatically, Julian asks a bizarre question: if the player believes an afterlife exists, something Julian has been thinking about for a while. This reveals that whatever space Julian is trapped in is not afterlife, but some sort of a trap where he is suffering in, which has made him think of the only way out being to a different world. Not Earth, but the possibility of an afterlife where he could maybe finally be free and happy. The game this time around is more challenging, having obstacles which destroys Julian, resetting each level. After finishing some levels, the game crashes again when all of a sudden ominous faces appear on the screen, with Julian glitching and being deformed beneath these faces.
Never wonder why death happens. Death comes unexpectedly. One moment you're fine, but then it all ends. So, you must die. You must die. You must die.
In here, Julian repeatedly asks why one dies and then goes on in a distorted way, jump-scaring the player, as if trying to get out of the screen, saying the player must die. After this, the player is left with some apps to explore. Using the browser, or the surfer as it's called, there he finds 3 different articles. The first one goes over the founder of Rosy Inc, a tech company which has overcome a feat to develop one-in-a-kind microchip capable of storing so much data in the smallest form without compromising the performance. They even explored the idea of artificial intelligence and how human brain could function like a microchip, with the founder being called Bob Carter. This in a way could indicate the beginning of Julian on how he could be an AI, having identical intelligence to humans, feeling trapped. Yet, a more ominous possibility is that even human consciousness could be preserved in a microchip, trapped in it for eternity, never dying, forever suffering. Another article about Mirrors Inc. goes on explaining how they partnered with Rosy to create the cutting-edge 98XX computer, using Rosy software which happens to have the same exact logo of the software the player found, which directly connects the ambiguous Julian to these articles, and how they brought about the creation of Julian. The third article then finally talks about the newly released game called Jumping Julian, which took the world by storm, becoming easily popular and every kid wanting to play it. Due to its demanding performance for the time, it went well with 98XX computer using the performance of Rosy software and chips, making it what it was. The developer of the game called John Monkford, the founder of Dreamer Studios, created a masterpiece which he didn't know would be so successful. After finding the secret code embedded within within the articles, a new secret article opens up about the mysterious disappearance of Jason Storm from Rosy Inc. This article was published on October 22nd, a few months after the creation of 99XX computer, roughly 4 months after. His strange disappearance came as a shock to his colleagues and family, as he was supposed to work on a new project, going to the company's warehouse and never coming back, as if he vanished in thin air. So, is it possible that he is Julian, who was teleported into the game and trapped there for eternity? Clicking on the secret words, a new article appears being about the rise and fall of the popularity of Jumping Julian. The game starts falling out of favor, and one specific person called Jason Storm, the person who went missing under mysterious circumstances, was a big critic, whose harsh feedback and public negative review left the developer of the game, John Monkford, heartbroken and depressed. After a few months, the criticism gets to him, which leads to him changing careers and seeking new opportunities in the Rosy Inc., the tech company with cutting-edge microchips. So the question arises, as John had expertise in development and had access to Rosy Tech, is it possible he was responsible for Jason's disappearance? It would be very convenient, as both worked in Rosy, making it easy for John to do things. Weird things to Jason. Another article follows describing how in the following month several tragedies took place with people dying who worked in Rosy Inc., linked to the game itself, who all passed away playing the game. In search of more answers, they start looking for the developer of the game, Monkford, finding out that he also has died. Investigating more, they find out the game included subliminal messages, which leads to them making a public apology and urging the developers to be more mindful and take responsibility for developing games, as it could affect some players. But of course, this doesn't explain how adults who seemingly had their life sorted, including Monkford himself, would all die. Is there foul play, or is there something else that we don't know of? There is definitely more to the story than the articles are entailing, and it's not just simple messages which would lead to mass death. It doesn't take longer than a month for Rosy to shut down due to the backlash of the recent tragedies, as the game was linked to them through one of their employees, John Monkford, and due to the power of their microchips, which leads to their most sought-after assets, their powerful microchips, being sold off to other opportunistic game developers. After all of that, a QR code is revealed, which, after being scanned, leads to a text file to be downloaded with codes. Decoding it gives links to some other games developed by the same game developer and an eerie text. It reads, "I wander in the darkness but never in light. I get to their heads and feed off their anger. You wish to find me, I know you do. Seek out these places and look very hard." Coincidentally, a video is shown about another game development company called Calvis Games looking for new employees and having managed to get their hands on the powerful Rosy microchips, creating a game called Ball Popper. Managing to solve the game puzzle, another QR code shows up which directs to a video link, being the interview of John Monkford explaining how his interest joining the Rosy company was the powerful microchip being able to be like human mind, which could reveal his sinister intentions of taking revenge on Jason Storm. As this development studio becomes one of the most prominent companies, they soon receive a letter by a concerned parent on how their games have made her son addicted to games, reducing his engagement in other important daily activities, to which he kindly asks them to take steps in preventing such behaviors. Playing the game Balloon Popper, after finishing some levels, the game starts glitching, showing a morbid image of a child, which expands with words behind it reading, "Help me," which of course reveals the sinister nature of this game. So the question arises again, what is going on? Are the disappearances, deaths, and other issues related to the Rosy microchips? Do they have the ability to trap souls, control people, and manipulate them? After all, they were said to have parallel quality to human mind, capable of much more. Finding another text file, it unveils information about a break-in into a cemetery. Apparently the suspect dug up 2 graves before fleeing the scene, not being apprehended and identified. Finding Finding another article reports on a drunk driving road collision which led to the tragic death of a mother and a child, which might somehow be related to the break-in to the cemetery where 2 graves were dug out. Playing another game called Talking Gerald, we learned something ominous about him. Choosing one of the dialogues options saying that it's too late for him, Gerald all of a sudden pleads with the player that he hasn't done anything wrong and doesn't know what he is, why he is, and that's when it breaks into a jump scare with a distorted face of a human appearing as well.
Please don't do this to me. I mean no harm. Why did I deserve this? Who am I? Why am I? Now I can see he is a bigger monster than me.
Reversing the audio of Talking Gerald, he mentions that his parents died when he was younger with no one to love him, and he resorted to drinking as that was the only thing that he could do. This leads to his wife leaving him, and he understands that's why he's here. The creepy face audio also reveals with Gerald saying that he understands someone else is a bigger monster than him. So it's possible the drunk driver who killed a mother and a daughter in a car accident is Gerald, who is now trapped in 99XX. But who is the bigger monster that Gerald is talking about, and who trapped him here? Is it possible that it's the Calvis Games? Finding another secret tape by someone called Jenny Peterson, she explains how she had a passion working in the gaming industry, being hired in the Calvis Games, being a gamer herself. But instead of being involved with development, she alongside others were forced to do ambiguous other chores which made it unbearable for her. Her photo then distorts and becomes corrupted, entailing something sinister. So what are these chores that she was talking about, and why weren't they putting a lot of passion and work into developing good games? Is it possible they were carrying out some other sinister things that led to all these disappearances and the weird things happening in the games? Going to a website indicated by some audio files, a detailed police report is found on Gary Summers, who was the culprit of the drunk driving incident, killing the mother and the daughter. It turns out someone who wanted to remain anonymous paid for his bail, saying that they will offer him a job for his rehabilitation. Wink wink. So it becomes more and more clear that he was hired by people from Calvis Games, seemingly, who knew about the properties of Rosy computer chips and transferred Gary into the game of Talking Gerald, becoming Gerald. In the newer updates, having new apps, a series of creepy phone calls can be heard and a 911 call log from a mother who reports her son stopping to breathe after playing his favorite game. So this could potentially be the mother who complained about the jumping Julian game, causing the son to stop doing daily activities. Visiting a secret website, an article published on 26th of May 1999, about 1 year after this whole dilemma, details the mysterious disappearance of 3 different children at a gaming convention, which left the parents traumatized, clearly linked with the Rosy chips. The victims are 12-year-old Ellie Miller, 13-year-old David Smith, and 10-year-old younger brother Johnny Smith. This all displays how Rosy created something that has at best science fiction properties, way ahead of its time, or at worst cursed supernatural abilities, which can easily transfer the consciousness of people into a digital realm. It's not clear if Rosy was aware of the abilities of their chips and if they intentionally created it, but Calvis Games seems to be an organization that actively and maliciously experiments with the chips, who managed to purchase Rosy assets after being dissolved. 99XX game is constantly getting new updates, and so far it's getting deeper and deeper, and it's clear that Rosy chips are the culprit of the multiple disappearances, which at the wrong hands could be very dangerous. Anyway folks, this brings us to the end of the video. Make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.